Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads podcast would love to thank the Crimers Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Crimers Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Crimers Beer House.
Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson with Kyle Crawford, and we are ready to bring you another great show. And this time we have brought in a special guest. Before I actually introduce our guest, can you imagine what would happen if you were a young guy? And maybe some of you guys out there have had this happen to you, so you probably know all too well what this might feel like. You're dating a girl and maybe going a little too far in the sexual world. And all of a sudden, one day she looks at you and says, guess what? I'm pregnant. And here you are 16 or 17 years old. Stop for just a second and think, what would run through your head?
Yep.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'd probably have to be changing my underwear because that one would probably just throw me for a huge loop. Guys, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about unplanned pregnancies from the male perspective. And today we have a special guest that's joining us. We are going to welcome Brian Faust from the Heartline Pregnancy Center located in Warsaw, Indiana. Brian Faust is the fatherhood program coordinator of Rock Solid Fatherhood in Warsaw, Indiana. By the way, did you steal that from Rock Solid Families, dude, or what, huh?
Oh, there's a story there for sure, yeah.
Okay. He's the husband of the world's best wife and father of 3 beautiful girls. He has nearly a decade of mentorship and mental health experience. Brian has his bachelor's in psychology and a master's in clinical health counseling from Grace College. His desire is to come alongside men of all walks of life as they embrace their role as partner and the father with a rock solid strength. Welcome, Brian, to Strong Dads.
Well, thanks, Hutch. Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for bringing me in and being able to share a little bit about what I do and my heart for dads.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So, I want to give just a little bit of insight too, and how you and I got connected, because it wasn't just random. I am involved at the Pregnancy Care Center of Southeast Indiana. I first started there as a volunteer in our MAN program, where I did counseling and stuff like that there. But I'm now on the board there, so I kind of carry a couple different roles. When COVID came, we kind of backed down a lot of our fatherhood work just because we couldn't allow guys in. And now it's kind of it's not back where it was yet. And some of that's due to my lack of being able to be there. I've been so busy with our own ministry that it's been harder for me to be involved, but it's still going and our staff down there is running it. But with that aside, you and I connected because you were running and starting your fatherhood program up at your pregnancy care center at Hardline. And we talked about some of the battles or struggles that position of bringing men in and trying to mentor them, what kind of struggles and challenges are being presented there. And so we just had some conversation, and I said, hey, you know what? One day it might be kind of cool. You and I just have you on Strong Dads and talk about really what we're seeing there and maybe how we can help dads out. One, maybe to prevent getting into that challenge, but 2, if you're in that challenge, like, what do you do? Right. So anyway, that's how you and I connected. Do you remember it that way, or is there a different side from your perspective?
Yeah, that's fairly close. There was how I stumbled upon the Rock Solid Families website was actually I was talking with the team at the very beginning, and I remember having a conversation about them. We were starting to use the logo that we had for Rock Solid Dads, and so I was putting it on brochures, I was putting it on flyers, and at some point I was like, hey, if we want to change the size of this, or we want to mess around with the logo at all, who do I need to talk to? And I remember some of the team, they were like, honestly, I'm not 100% sure where we got the logo. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Is this our logo? Do we have permission to use this, guys? Because this is when I just started. And so I'm doing a little bit of research and I'm like, oh man, I hope we haven't stolen someone's logo here. And so, I'm taking a look, and long story short, I did find out, we had hired out to be able to get this what do you call it? This asset, I should say. So that got worked out, but in the process, I stumbled upon obviously Rock Solid Families, and then to come to find out that you guys are just 3.5 hours away.
Yeah.
And here's a couple guys doing a lot of the same work that I do. That was unreal. That was definitely a blessing.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. And then so you and I connected and we talked a little bit, and I think you've actually listened to and maybe even push out some of our Strong Dad shows to help some of your guys out.
Yeah, for sure.
So part of our deal here is us trying to shine a little bit of light on this whole topic. If you've ever experienced what I talked about at the beginning of the show, of all of a sudden you have, even if you're married and you and your wife were not planning on having a child yet, and she tells you she's pregnant, that's not always received like you might think, right? That could be like, what? Yeah. Like we have bills, or we're in the middle of schooling still, or whatever. And so because we're talking about the magnitude of the responsibility that all of a sudden hits home, and it is earth shaking to both the young mom and dad. And so how we help dads handle that, I think, is critical, because of what kind of life that kid's going to have. And then what's going to happen someday he's going to be a parent and an adult. Right. So what's going to happen? What's going to transpire because of what happened to this young man and this young woman years ago? Right. So, Kyle, let's do a couple thank yous, and then let's just really get into our conversation.
Okay. Yeah, good deal. Hey, Strong Dads, we would love to thank Crimer's Beer House and Casey Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of us. Really do appreciate both of them for sponsoring us, allowing us to continue to put out shows like this. So check both those places out again. Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Crimer's Beer House. Thanks so much for them.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Brian, tell me just a little bit about the work you do. Let's open this up. Tell us who you are, what you do. You're married to the best wife in the world, and I was not going to argue that, but I don't know, my wife might have a problem with that. Okay. So
hey, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong.
What's said here stays here. We'll just leave it right there.
Sounds good. Yeah. So the fatherhood program, and actually what I've come to find out is fatherhood work coming alongside the moms in pregnancy centers is actually fairly new. We started out just a few months before COVID, which again is a story in itself. Trying to figure out how to turn a program into a program, but then also how to quickly adjust that to a COVID world. But yeah, so right now I'm kind of the go-to person. So when a dad comes in, some of those dads are very nervous. They're just like, I can't believe what's going on. And so I get to have that, face-to-face talk with them. I'll bring them into the room and we'll just kind of process a little bit of that, kind of help him unpackage some of the stuff that he's working through as he thinks for the first time, like, what does this mean for me? Am I ready for that?
Right.
So moving forward from that, we're able to offer him some options. Right now, I function as kind of a mentor or coach for a lot of dads. So we meet about once a week and we just talk about anything relevant to some of the barriers, frustrations, desires that the dad has. So We'll talk finances, like how do we prepare financially for the idea of caring for a family. We'll talk about just having a strong relationship, good communication with mom. Even some of the challenges that dads come with. So, if he's not living with mom and they're thinking cohabitation, that's something we have to talk about. Because of the outreach that we have kind of done outside of the center, we are currently working with the local jail. So some of the dads that we have because of that, they're like, I want to be a good dad, but I'm in jail right now. So what does that mean for me? Other guys, we had one guy who was like, you know what? This is terrible timing because I'm in the military and we're about to be deployed. So all kinds of cases. And it's just kind of sitting down with the guy and saying, okay, what is dadhood going to look like for you? And how can I come alongside you to grow, to mature in areas where you feel like, I want to be stronger here. So,
yeah.
Brian, can I, man, this idea of mentorship, man, this is something, I love this idea. Obviously, when it comes to the dad aspect, I know in my professional world as a firefighter, like this is something I think maybe just across the board, generally speaking, for men is just missing. It's just something that men do a terrible job of. So I think it's really cool for you taking on that role of mentoring dads. And I'm sure, you can speak into this idea, as a mentor, as someone who is speaking in the life of someone else. It's not that you have to have all the answers, right? It's just that you just have to be sometimes just a listening ear for someone, right? I mean, because especially in the situation that you're talking about, these dads just have no idea, right? I mean, and it's not that, again, you have to have the answer. It's just sometimes you just need to listen and maybe just give a little bit of advice or just say, hey, this is something that might work. Let's try this out. So I think this idea of mentorship, again, in general speaking, I think men do a terrible job of. So it's awesome to hear you stepping into that role and taking that on. I think is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's definitely true. I will be the first to tell any of the guys, I don't have everything figured out. I'm growing myself. And that's been the neat thing about switching from kind of a counselor role or a therapist role to more of a mentor role is I definitely feel more ability to be able to just kind of say, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
When you think about being a therapist, you're the professional. You've got everything together in a nice little package to offer, your clientele. But this time, I can just say, you know what? I probably have to look that up before I can give you a straight on answer on that one. Or, that's territory I've not necessarily explored myself, but there's some common tools or there's things about our character that can allow us to be able to tap into what's available in front of us, whether that's, asking supports, whether that's just kind of digging in, doing a little bit of research, reading some books. The knowledge, that's something that we can do together. We can explore and learn, but just kind of, Kyle, what you're saying, it's been a neat opportunity to just kind of sit down with a dad and say, well, I don't have it all figured out. You don't have it all figured out, but we're going to figure out a little bit together.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Brian, one of the challenges that that I think we have, and I think Kyle, you just sort of alluded to it, the lack of mentorship. Here's a challenge that I see in the work that I do daily. So as a marriage and family coach with a lot of emphasis towards men from the chair that I sit in, like in our daily work between my wife and I, we probably have at best 2-to-1. It might even be closer to 3-to-1 ratio of the number of women that will come in for help versus the number of men. So what I'm saying there is men are not quick to come in for help. Okay. Now, when they come in, they're just as broken as anyone else, right? Like they're really hitting the rock bottom. But the idea of them walking in the door is it's challenging. Okay. At the pregnancy care center, I'm going to just throw numbers, and I can't back these up. But out of 100 women that walk in through the course of our work that we do at our pregnancy care center, if we have 100 women walk in, we might be lucky to get 10 men that walk in willing to talk to you. I mean, like most of the guys, and this was what we actually had to start patrolling our parking lot, because even if the guy went to the pregnancy care center with the lady, he stayed out in the car, maybe listened to the radio or smoked a cigarette or whatever, but he stayed out. And so I actually, when I would work my shift, I would go out in the parking lot and I would just kind of walk around. If I'd see a dude out there, I'd be like, hey, come on in. I got a, soft drink or whatever, and it was like pulling teeth to get them in. So let's talk a little bit about the stigma. A pregnancy care center is really what we kind of oftentimes refer to as a pink building, right? It's a ladies' building. Yeah. It's a ladies' building because it's all about the lady being pregnant with the child. And so it's kind of looked at as, mom, baby, and then somewhere down way low is the priority of man, right? The dad. So first off, what do you see? Do you get men freely walking in now, or are you still pulling and trying to advertise to get them in? Or are you breaking that barrier?
Yeah, that barrier, that's been tough. Because you're right there. I mean, I'll be honest. If before I started this job, if someone were to say, hey, there is a fatherhood program at a pregnancy center, some of my initial thoughts would be, what is a pregnancy center? Why? I'm not pregnant. What do I care about?
It's not my problem.
I care about this. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when you're like, I'm not sure if I would buy my own product, that, that's something that definitely hits home. And that's a barrier that we've had to fight. And then on top of it, I've kind of mentioned to you a little bit before, but there is a stigma to being even a faith-based setting. So, you're getting hit from all angles of, why do I need this? How is this for me? But then also, how am I going to be treated in this environment? Is it going to be something where mom is the good guy and, we're just the guy who got her knocked up and, we're the problem in this situation? Or, just not knowing what to expect walking into the room. So from the very beginning, whether it's how we've set up this room that we meet in, just a lot of the touches that we've added to, their experience walking in and stuff. We try to put out some guys magazines next to all the, ladies magazines that you see, or, we've got a lot of information on stuff that's available to dads. We've drastically had to change the mindset of, dads need to know they are welcome here just as much as mom. And
Brian, can I just stop you for a second? I think the thing that bothers me about what we're talking about here is every pregnancy includes a dad, right? Like,
yes,
unless we're going into the lab somewhere and we're dealing with test tubes. And so because of this, we actually, us men, we do put ourselves in a losing position when we don't take ownership. And that's why, like you talked about, like, well, I'm afraid, if I'm a man, I'm afraid to walk in that building because am I the bad guy?
Yep.
Right. And so guys are afraid, like, well, I already screwed up once. I'm going to go in there and they're going to tell me, well, why'd you do that or whatever. And the idea here is, dude, that kid needs you. And so something that we found, and I know you and I talked a little bit about this, man, we need the ladies here to really pull these guys in, because not only can the guy help this mother, but this guy needs to know that he's welcome in their life, right? Even if they don't get married, he's still the father of that child. And if we just dismiss him, then we are going to cast a shadow on him and a shadow on the kid for the rest of that kid's life. In other words, that kid will say, I never knew who my dad was, or my dad was a jerk, or my dad, because men by their nature do not want to be in that confrontation. And so like, we have to really, this is a message, today's show is as much a message for the women as it is for the men. That us, those ladies, and I always say, like, when I'm working in the pregnancy care center, every lady that comes in the building, I make sure that either myself or another man speaks to her, not just the ladies and the nurses, but like another man says, hey, where's the daddy? All right. Yep. And to really get her to know how important he is in the long term. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of times, and especially in culture right now, the message is, even if you decide, yes, I'm going to have this baby, that, you can't count on dad to be there.
Right.
And unless there's, every once in a while, dad decides, I'm going to step in. I'm excited. I'm thrilled about the idea. That doesn't happen too often. A lot of times it's a scary thought for her. It's a scary thought for him. And so she immediately, because of the way culture is taught, she thinks, I'm on my own here.
Yeah.
And so it is a little bit of encouraging her in exactly what you're saying. Like, this takes two to tango, like you need both pieces there. And, if there's any way that we can advocate and encourage that relationship, that we can build it, grow it, or support you as you're building and growing yourself, we want to do that. We take that very seriously here.
So yeah, Brian. So what are some of, kind of jumping into this? I mean, obviously you being overseeing the fatherhood role, like, what are some of the things that you're calling the dads into, as far as like, obviously getting them is obviously the first step, right? Getting them to even show up and actually begin this conversation. Walk us through some of the steps on what you guys are incorporating as far as, telling men, like, you need that there's an action here, right? We're called into action. Like, you have to do something in order to be, involved. Like, what are some of the steps that you guys are doing?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I tried to do is just, especially for the dads who are kind of at that point where they are just freaking out from the beginning. They're just like, I can't believe this. Like, I'm not financially ready. My relationship with this girl, like, I barely know her, and sometimes they're just my family. I don't know if they're going to respect me or support me. I don't have a great relationship. There are her dad, her mom, there's all these things that are just flooding through his head. And I try to kind of help him see two things. One, especially when they're coming in for pregnancy test or the initial ultrasound, I try to like, man, you have a few months. I mean, you're looking at 6-7 months, sometimes even 8 months, to kind of get some of these things figured out. You can get a job in that time frame. It might not be your dream job, but you can start making some money. I talk with them about, you can do some couples counseling and work out some of these issues that you guys are having. Like, all the stuff that you think you need to have together today. One, you don't have to have it together today. And some of this stuff too, you're not going to have figured out even years down the this is a constant growth. And so I tell them that, but then I also tell them that, I think we try to make the idea of being a dad more complicated than it is. There's some principles that we have to follow. I tell them, if I get you to this point, I've worked myself out of a job. I encourage you, I want you to be wise in the decisions that you do. Learn from experiences. If you make mistakes, don't do them again,
Right.
The other thing I say is, no matter how you go about a situation, do it with love. Love for your family, love for people around you, love for yourself in the things that you're doing. Honor God. If that's important to you, love and honor God in what you're doing. The other thing is just being intentional. So don't let life just kind of do its own thing and you're just reacting to everything. Figure out, what do I want to accomplish as a dad, and go for it. So I keep telling them, these are the things that I'm trying to encourage you towards. Like I said, all that knowledge is going to come in time. There's no manual. I think we all agree that you don't start out with a manual. You just kind of learn things as you go. But if you can build some of those characteristics, then you're good to go. And eventually I get to a point where dads are like, you know what? I'm feeling solid about the decisions I'm making. I feel like I know who I can go to when I need help. So I think we're good here. I think you and I, we're done. And I love hearing that.
Yeah. Put yourself out of the job. Brian, something that just overwhelmed me, in a kind of a sad way, when I was working with these dads, I was making assumptions. When I first started working, I was making assumptions. I had made assumptions about, like, well, they do have a vision of what a good dad looks like. Like, this common sense, kind of like you said, like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. But what I started to really find, and this is the sad truth that should drive every pregnancy care center to meet this need. I'm not going to give you a exact statistic because I don't have one, but I would say close to 90% of the guys that walk into our pregnancy care center, when I ask them the question, tell me about your dad experience, your personal dad experience, 90% of them, maybe more, are saying, oh no, like, my dad experience is not good. Either I don't know who my dad was, or my dad was reckless or abusive, or all of these things. And so these guys do not have solid dad experiences. And because of that, they grew up without the male influence. They grew up without the discipline, and they really are acting like young boys that can deliver sperm. And that blew me away. Yeah. Like, here I was, I was fortunate to be raised by a solid man, my dad. And I totally assumed that, well, doesn't everybody, and when I came to work in the pregnancy care center, I was blown away by the number of guys that were really just like boys with their toys. And that's why the responsibility became overwhelming. So my point being here is, one of the ways that I always approach these guys is, listen, tell me about your dad experience. And they tell me. And when I see that it's broken or not as healthy as it can be, I say, okay, so what kind of dad experience do you want your kid to have? And without fail, they say, not like mine. Okay. And
exactly.
This is a generational problem that we're talking about. That's why what pregnancy care centers have to realize is, if we just give the dad a few dollars and some diapers and send him down the road, and we don't do the mentorship that you and Kyle were talking about before, if that guy doesn't get a true vision of what it looks like to be that dad, we're just going to put this into the next generation. And that blew my mind. Like, holy cow, every guy I talk to has no solid foundation on what it looks like to be a solid dad.
Yeah. And the hard part is too, not only are a lot of these guys coming in with this mindset of, my relationship with my dad was not great. I'm starting from a point of backwards momentum here.
Yeah.
But also they're like, I also feel like I need to have everything figured out before this baby comes. So they're like, I don't know what to do, but I feel like I need to know exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so much pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, I want
to go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
Say, Brian, you had kind of talked a little bit about the jail program that you guys partner with. When we talk about, this mentorship, and this is something that I'm learning as I've talked before on the show, we have a rookie at my firehouse and we're getting into that mentorship. Man, it takes a lot of pieces to direct and kind of mentor that person. What are some of the other parts of the mentorship that you guys have, with the fatherhood program at the parenting center that you're involved with? What are some of the different support systems that you guys use and resource? I know you're talking about some books and odds and that stuff. What all plays into that?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to come alongside a lot of organizations that have kind of paved the way as far as curriculum and resources that are available to us. So whether that's through Hope Sync or National Fatherhood Initiative, they have a ton of just really great resources, great information. It seems like they're just popping things left and right, especially just over the last couple of years. I just had the privilege of being able to attend the first men's conference for the work with dads that they've put on just a couple of weeks ago. That was the first one, and so we got to just kind of listen. It was so encouraging to sit down with a bunch of many guys who share the same heart that I have and kind of ask them questions. What's available? What can we do? Because like I said, it is fairly new to be working with dads in this capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we're finding more and more is that because we really have established this heart for dads and we're getting it now, there are people that are taking this very seriously and paving the way here. So as far as that, we've got workbooks, we've got handouts, we've got discussion tools to just kind of get the conversation going. There's tons of video series that we go through. There's also, because of COVID, we've really had to look into how do we take some of this information and utilize it in a more virtual setting. So there's a lot of programs and curriculums that we're able to offer that, I have them watch a video and we can discuss the video over Zoom, or there's some kind of interactive materials that we're able to still have good conversation. But then we also, we try to kind of meet some of the more tactile things of being a dad. So, we've got a crib just off to my side over here that, we'll change some diapers, we'll do some swaddling, stuff like that. So we try to kind of meet whatever need dads have as they come in and try to meet them where they're at as far as what works for them in their learning style, their, what kind of direction they want to take that mentorship experience. So,
man, I love that you guys are taking for granted anything, right? Because I remember when my oldest now, when she was born, like, I don't know how to flip and change a diaper, right? And I love that. That's a thing, right? Like we got to teach dads that, because especially if they don't have a support system outside of what you guys have going on, this mentor program, like that is a foreign thought for most men. And like, I don't think men were like ingrained with this idea. Maybe even not women, generally speaking, especially when we're talking about, younger ladies, like that idea of changing diapers and swaddling and like, how do I even hold a bottle, right? Like all that stuff that is a learned behavior, a learned task that we have to learn. And I think it's really cool that you don't take any of that stuff for granted.
We try not to.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Kyle. I remember with our first son, like, I didn't have a desire to just jump up and hold him. I was kind of freaked out. Like, I'm going to drop him. Like he's too fragile, and so really, I remember the nurses kind of saying, No, you can bring him in. You're good. You're good. Because I had not held children. I was just doing my thing. And so the whole thing was pretty weird and overwhelming, created a lot of anxiety. I do remember one of the things I've mentioned before, like one thing that struck me at the birth of my first son, literally at the birth, was how perfect they were. And the idea that this is what total innocence looks like. This child has never done anything wrong ever. They're as perfect can be. And now it's up to me to screw them up.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like
exactly
overwhelmed, like, oh man, everything I do to this kid, like from this day forward, I'm going to be part of the screw up, is kind of how, like, I was overwhelmed by that responsibility. Because that first second they're coming out, they're perfect, right? They've not sinned, they've not hurt anybody, and every day forward. So the responsibility is big, and sometimes the desire to just run away from that becomes so strong that guys they run away from it. Brian, let me ask you, we're going to start to wind things down a little bit. So obviously our first deal is to avoid these kind of pregnancies to begin with, right? Like to have young men that understand what relationships are, what sex is. I mean, the magnitude of that. So, very preventative and proactive measures needing to take place from raising men by good, strong men before this even happens. So let's just lay that on the table. That's what we need to do. Okay. But the reality of it is we are, especially these days, dealing with many men that don't have that kind of experience and understanding. So what are some step-by-steps? The guy, he finds out, he gets the news, she's pregnant. What are some things that you would encourage him to do from the very first time he realizes, okay, I need to deal with this? What are some step-by-steps when they walk into your pregnancy care center that you can support them with?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that we do is just having a talk, just giving them a safe environment to just be able to say, this is what it means to me. Like, these are some of the fears that I have. This is how I'm experiencing things. Just to be able to kind of put that all into words. I think it helps a lot of dads to be able to kind of say, you know what? Yep, that's exactly how I was feeling, because I think, we hide it from other people, how we're experiencing things, but I think just as true, we hide it from ourselves as well.
Great.
So if we can be real with ourselves, that then becomes the groundwork for being able to be real with the situation, being real with mom about how you're taking in everything, being real with the parents. A lot of times they have to have that very difficult conversation of, you know what, you guys told me time and time and time again, please don't get a girl pregnant before you're ready to make a full commitment. And well, I've got a kiddo on the way. So
yeah,
that's a hard conversation. So sometimes it's prepping them for that conversation, because all they can think in their mind is my dad's going to kill me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to prep you the best I can to have that conversation. So so some of that goes into it. And then, like I said, just giving them a realistic aspect of, this is not something that you need to have figured out all today. Let's work on some of these things. Let's figure out what it is that you may struggle in, or some of these barriers that you see along the way. And let's get down and dirty in some of that stuff. Let's figure out what we need to feel more confident and competent in those areas.
Yeah. That's excellent. That's great. Good stuff. All right. Well, hey, I greatly appreciate the work that you do, the heart that you have for this. Obviously, here at Strong Dads, we really believe that the lack of fatherhood is one, if not the primary societal ill that links to so many other problems. And you mentioned Fatherhood Initiative. We've had Chris Brown on Strong Dads, who is the president of Fatherhood Initiative. And it is amazing to see the statistics on drug use, homelessness, incarceration, and how it directly correlates to fatherlessness or bad fathering. And so I don't think we should minimize this. I think this is such a big deal. And, pregnancy care centers are not bored. There's a lot of girls coming in those pregnancy care centers. And we need to know that behind every one of those ladies is a man. And if we don't reach out to him and bring him in, then we're going to perpetuate the societal ill rather than start to heal it and grow it to something that's healthier. If we want to stop all of this bad erosion of societal concerns, we really do need to start with the dads. And so I want to thank you for your work. Not too many guys are willing to jump in and do this, especially young guys. They're overwhelmed themselves with fatherhood and being a parent. And so the idea that you're a young dad, that you've stepped in and you've seen that, you've had the vision to see that, I just salute you for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, Brian, as we, close this show out, we definitely want to give you an opportunity. What are some things, just that you want either the dads that you're currently mentoring or a dad who does have that unexpected, I guess everything is, I guess there's an action that happened in order to, have said pregnancy, but what are some words of encouragement, some words that you can kind of leave our dads that are maybe find themselves in those situations?
Yeah. Well, for the dads that we currently have in the program, I guess I would just want to say that I think we've made it very clear that for them to be able to even step in and say, hey, I'd love to get some help, that takes some courage. So I just want to say to those guys, I'm very proud of you. And I highly respect and I want to honor, what you're choosing to do for your family. It's a big step.
Yeah.
And for those guys who, they may be questioning, is this something for me? Is this something I want to do? I want to say, we all need help. It may not necessarily be me in your life working with you. But please don't ever think that you have to do this by yourself. We dads, we want to encourage each other. We want to see men stepping up and taking this role that, some of us have really come to appreciate, and we know it's good for us. We want to see other guys step in and say, I'm willing to take the courage and the challenge to be a strong dad.
Yeah. All right. That's great. Great stuff. Thank you. So, Brian, I know that you work in a specific community in Warsaw, Indiana, but I also know that you do some writing and you would be willing to help other guys. Is there a way that other guys that might be hearing this could, if they had a question, that they could reach out to you or get in contact with you?
Yeah. So they can go to the Hardline website. If they just do a basic Google search, Heartline Pregnancy Center, it'll be in Warsaw, Indiana. I actually have a blog that I've been writing for a little while. I've decided to kind of take a little break for now as I just kind of refuel myself with some new ideas. I feel like I'm just kind of scratching the bottom of the barrel sometimes, when I'm like, I don't think I have anything new to say today. So I've been taking a little bit of a break, but there's quite a few just things out there they can take a look at. Hopefully some good resources there to answer some of the questions they may have, but also, if you would like, I can share just a little bit more about the program through brochures or anything if you'd like me to get that out to you. But you can use my email address at bfaust, F-A-U-S-T, at heartlinepregnancycenter.org. So very long, but that's what we have.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so bfaust at heartlinepregnancycenter.org.
.org.
Okay, great. we would also like to say here from Strong Dads that if there is anything that we can help any dad or potential dad that is out there that is overwhelmed, feeling insecure, feeling anxious about your fathering situation or potential fathering situation, please, reach out to it. This is what we do outside of a pregnancy care center. You can go to rocksolidfamilies.org, or you could just reach out to us at hutch@rocksolidfamilies.org. The bottom line here is, we have a lot of influence over our kids, and society might try to minimize that, but make no mistake about it. Our kids and our wives need us, and they need us in our best form, in a healthy, solid, strong male form. So please do not let yourself get trapped and swamped by all of the pressures and anxieties of a pregnancy. Let's get in there and let's figure it out. Yep, Kyle, absolutely. You got anything for us?
Man, Brian, thanks so much. I love that we, as Merle and I have continued to do this podcast, we're finding more and more dads and more men that are stepping up and doing things like you're doing, this mentorship program. And it's awesome to know that collectively, a group of men are caring about other men, and we want what's best for them, even if they're in a situation that's not ideal. Right. And I think it's just cool to know that, we're not, no man is perfect. Right. And we're all just trying to figure out this together, but there's resources out there. So I think that's a great message to leave all our strong dads out there, that there's resources that we just need to find and seek out. So thanks so much for what you're doing at the Pregnancy Care Center and the Fatherhood Initiative that you got going on. Definitely want to thank Casey Outdoor Solution and Crimer's Beer House for coming alongside of us. Thanks so much for them. Check them out. Let them know we sent you down there. So I think we're good, Merle.
Yeah. So let's go out there and be a strong dad. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.